In a small town of Medina, where everyone knew everyone, Jake and Mia Carter were the perfect couple, or so everyone thought. He was the heart of the community, a chef whose passion for food brought people together. She was his dazzling wife, the picture of charm and elegance. Together they built a life that others admired, even envied. But sometimes, what glitters isn't gold. In this story, a picture-perfect marriage becomes the backdrop for a betrayal so gut-wrenching, it left an entire town speechless. What compels someone to turn their back on the one who gives them unconditional love? Is it dissatisfaction, greed, or something buried deeper in the heart? When loyalty is traded for deceit, it doesn't just break hearts, it destroys lives. In this tale of love, ambition, and betrayal, one decision cooked up a catastrophe no one saw coming. Stay with us as we unravel the events that turned this dream life into a waking nightmare. Hit that like button if you're ready for a story filled with unexpected twists, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales of betrayal, greed, and the darkest corners of human nature. Jake Carter was a man who poured his heart and soul into his craft. His bistro wasn't just a place to eat, it was a cornerstone of the community. From weddings to anniversaries, first dates to family reunions, Jake's food turned ordinary moments into unforgettable memories. Locals often said that his secret ingredient was love, and it was hard to argue. But it wasn't just his culinary skills that earned him admiration. Jake was the kind of man who remembered your name, your favorite dish, and the story behind it. He had a knack for making everyone feel special, from the elderly couple celebrating their 50th anniversary to the kid trying their first taste of crème brûlée. At the heart of Jake's world was his wife, Mia. To him, she wasn't just his partner in life, but in business too. He often credited Mia's charm and elegance for the bistro's success, calling her the front-of-house magic to his back-of-house passion. Together they seemed unstoppable, a dynamic duo with a shared dream. Or so Jake believed. Mia Carter was the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it. With her perfectly styled hair, designer wardrobe, and dazzling smile, she had a way of making people feel like they were in the presence of someone extraordinary. She knew how to play the role of the supportive wife, standing by Jake's side and welcoming guests with an effortless warmth that charmed even the most stoic diner. But beneath the surface, Mia was restless. The simplicity of small-town life felt like a gilded cage to her, trapping her in a world that lacked the excitement and extravagance she craved. The bistro, with its clinking glasses and hearty laughter, was a stage where she played her part. But off-stage, Mia's mind wandered to a life of luxury and thrill, a life that Jake, for all his love and talent, couldn't provide. Enter Derek, a man with a bad reputation and an even worse addiction to gambling. Derek represented everything Mia secretly desired: danger, risk, and the promise of a life far removed from the quiet streets of their town. Their affair wasn't born out of love, but a shared hunger for something more, something reckless. To the outside world, Jake and Mia were the definition of couple goals. They were featured in local magazines as the heart and soul of their community, with glossy photos of Jake in his chef's whites and Mia in her designer dresses. Their story was the kind people toasted to, a tale of love, hard work, and shared success. Locals adored them. Women admired Mia's elegance, while men aspired to have Jake's charm and talent. Families looked up to them as a symbol of what a good partnership could achieve. Even their occasional disagreements, like when Jake wanted to try a new menu item that Mia thought was too bold, seemed to add to their charm. But behind closed doors, the fairy tale was unraveling. Mia's restlessness was growing harder to hide, her late-night shopping trips and unexplained absences raising quiet questions Jake was too trusting, or too in love, to ask. To everyone else, they were the perfect ingredients for a happy life. To Mia, it felt like a recipe for suffocation. What no one could see was the quiet discontent bubbling beneath their perfect exterior. Mia's secret life with Derek was a ticking time bomb, and Jake's unwavering devotion made him blind to the cracks forming in their foundation. The community celebrated them as a power couple, but every smile Mia gave Jake carried the weight of 1,000 lies. And while Jake spent his days perfecting dishes to delight his customers, Mia was perfecting her own plan, a scheme that would shatter the illusion of their perfect life and leave the town reeling in its wake. It all started with an innocuous document. One evening, as Mia sorted through a pile of mail on their kitchen counter, she noticed an envelope marked "Life Insurance Policy." Curiosity sparked as she unfolded the paperwork, her eyes widening at the numbers staring back at her. $100,000. It was Jake's way of ensuring their future, his attention. But for Mia, the policy wasn't just a safety net, it was an opportunity. Her mind raced with possibilities, the frustrations she had shared with Derek echoing in her head. The bistro wasn't enough. Jake's love wasn't enough. She wanted more. More money, more excitement, more freedom from the monotony that suffocated her every day. When Mia confided in Derek, his response was immediate and chillingly pragmatic. "Poison," he said with a grin that turned her stomach and thrilled her in equal measure. He painted a picture of a life they could have together, a life where Jake's insurance payout would buy them freedom and indulgence. Mia hesitated, her conscience battling against her desires, but Derek was persuasive. He assured her it would be quick, painless, and most importantly, untraceable. "It'll look like natural causes," he promised, his voice dripping with false reassurance. At first Mia dismissed the idea, but as the days passed, her dissatisfaction grew louder, drowning out the last shreds of her moral compass. Derek's intoxicating promises of adventure and luxury overpowered her doubts. Eventually, with trembling hands, she agreed. The plan was simple, yet terrifying. Mia began adding minuscule amounts of poison to Jake's meals. At first, the changes were so subtle that even Jake, a chef with a discerning palate, didn't notice. He started complaining of headaches, nausea, and fatigue, symptoms he chalked up to the relentless stress of running a bustling kitchen. "I just need a day off," he'd say, forcing a weary smile as Mia handed him a plate of his favorite comfort food. But every bite he took brought him closer to the edge, and Mia watched with a twisted mixture of guilt and determination. The community noticed, too. Jake's once vibrant energy seemed dimmer, his trademark smile harder to come by. Regulars at the bistro whispered amongst themselves, wondering if their beloved chef was burning out. Eliana, Jake's trusted sous chef and longtime friend, was the first to speak up. She pulled Jake aside after a particularly grueling shift, concern etched across her face. "Jake, you're not yourself. You've lost weight and you look exhausted. Please, go see a doctor." But Mia, ever the doting wife, was always there to intercept. "He's fine," she'd say with a soothing smile that masked her true intentions. "Just a little overworked, that's all. I'll make sure he gets some rest." Despite Elena's persistent urging, Jake, trusting Mia implicitly, dismissed the idea of seeking medical help. "I'll be fine," he assured her, his voice laced with the exhaustion he couldn't shake. Behind the scenes, Mia worked tirelessly to maintain the facade of a loving wife, subtly isolating Jake from anyone who might dig too deeply into his condition. She played her role to perfection, her charm and composure hiding the monstrous truth of what she was doing. As Jake's health continued to deteriorate, the tension grew unbearable. Each meal Mia prepared felt like a gamble, every bite a step closer to her ultimate goal. The trust Jake placed in her, his unwavering belief in their partnership, was the very weapon she used against him. The community watched with growing concern. Elena grew increasingly suspicious, and Derek grew impatient. And all the while, Mia teetered on the edge of her own humanity, fully aware that she had passed the point of no return. Elena couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in her gut any longer. Watching Jake, a man who had once been the epitome of energy and vitality, fade into a shadow of himself was unbearable. The headaches, the lethargy, the weight loss. It wasn't just exhaustion. Something was wrong, and no one seemed to be doing anything about it. One night, while closing up the bistro, Elena noticed Jake had left his half-eaten dinner in the kitchen. A strange idea crossed her mind, one she couldn't shake. Quietly, she scraped the remnants into a container and slipped it into her bag. Over the next few days, Elena became a detective in her own right. She collected more samples of Jake's meals, carefully labeling and storing them. Using her network of contacts, friends who worked in laboratories or had access to medical testing, she sought answers. What she discovered would change everything. Mia was unraveling. The plan, which had once seemed so neat and simple, was spiraling out of her control. Jake's condition was deteriorating faster than she had anticipated, and her every interaction with him became a test of her composure. Every cough, every wince of pain, every concerned glance from their friends or staff felt like a spotlight on her. Mia's nerves were frayed and the walls felt like they were closing in. Worse, she noticed Elena's behavior changing. The once bubbly sous chef now seemed reserved, her eyes lingering too long on Jake's meals or casting wary glances in Mia's direction. Mia couldn't shake the feeling that Elena knew something. Maybe not everything, but enough to be a threat. While Mia grappled with her own guilt and paranoia, Derek was growing impatient. His calls and messages became more frequent and demanding. "What's taking so long?" he snapped during a late-night phone call. "We agreed on this. If you drag it out, people will start asking questions." Mia tried to explain her hesitation, but Derek's charm had turned to venom. "Do you want out of this life or not?" he hissed, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Because if you don't follow through, you're on your own, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you tried to do." The cracks in their relationship deepened. Derek's promises of love and excitement had dissolved, replaced by manipulation and threats. Mia realized she wasn't just a pawn in his game, she was trapped in a web of her own making, with no clear way out. Despite his worsening health, Jake remained the devoted husband Mia had always known. With their anniversary approaching, he decided to surprise her with a private dinner at the bistro. He poured every ounce of his dwindling energy into the evening, preparing a menu of her favorite dishes and decorating their small restaurant with candles and flowers. When Mia arrived, she was caught off guard. The sight of Jake, pale and visibly unwell but smiling with love and pride, made her heart twist painfully. He pulled out a chair for her, his hands trembling slightly as he gestured for her to sit. "Happy anniversary, Mia," he said softly, his voice filled with genuine affection. Throughout the evening, Jake reminisced about their life together, recalling the day they met, the first dish they cooked as a team, and the dreams they had for the future. His words were a painful reminder of the man he was, the man she was, poisoning. For a moment, Mia felt the weight of her guilt crush her. She wanted to confess, to throw herself at his feet and beg for forgiveness. But then she thought of Derek, of the life she had been promised, and forced herself to stay the course. As Jake raised his glass for a toast, Mia's stomach churned. "To us," he said, his eyes shining with love, "may we always find strength in each other, no matter what comes our way." Mia clinked her glass against his, the sound reverberating like a death knell. She forced a smile, but inside her heart screamed. The anniversary dinner was a masterclass in tension, a moment that brought Jake's unshakable love and Mia's crumbling resolve into sharp focus. Elena's growing suspicions, Derek's mounting pressure, and Mia's wavering commitment to her deadly plan left the audience with one burning question. How much longer could this dangerous game continue before everything exploded? It was a bustling Friday evening at the bistro with the aroma of seared steak and rosemary filling the air. Jake, as always, was at the center of it all, his commanding presence orchestrating the kitchen like a symphony. But something was different. Sweat beaded on his brow and his movements were slower, less precise. As he called out orders, Jake suddenly stumbled, his knees buckling under him. Plates clattered to the ground as the staff froze in shock. "Jake!" Elena yelled, rushing to his side as he collapsed on the kitchen floor. His face was pale, his breath shallow. The once indomitable chef now looked like a man on the brink of life and death. Paramedics arrived, their hurried footsteps echoing through the silent kitchen. Customers whispered among themselves as they glimpsed Jake being wheeled out, an oxygen mask strapped to his face. In the ambulance, Jake slipped in and out of consciousness, murmuring Mia's name. By the time they reached the hospital, the doctors had already identified something unusual. His symptoms suggest exposure to a toxic substance, one doctor remarked gravely. Blood tests confirmed the presence of foreign compounds in his system, compounds that didn't belong. Authorities were notified immediately. When Mia arrived at the hospital, she was the picture of a devastated wife. Her mascara smudged as tears streamed down her face, and her hands trembled as she clutched Jake's wedding band. She played the role perfectly, cradling his hand and whispering prayers for his recovery. To the hospital staff and onlookers, her grief was genuine, but inside, Mia's mind raced. Had she gone too far? Was the plan falling apart? Her thoughts were interrupted by a nurse who mentioned the involvement of law enforcement. The words sent a shiver down her spine. Meanwhile, Derek was unraveling. "You have to keep it together," he hissed over a frantic phone call. "If they suspect anything, it's over for both of us. We need to disappear." Derek's paranoia escalated with every passing hour, and he began making plans to flee, insurance payout or not. While Mia was busy maintaining her act, Elena had been relentless in her search for the truth. The results from the food samples confirmed her worst fears. Jake had been poisoned. The toxins matched a common household substance, one that could be easily overlooked but deadly in small doses. Elena wasted no time. Armed with her findings, she approached the police. "I've been working with Jake for years," she told them. "He's careful, meticulous. This didn't happen by accident." The investigation gained momentum. Detectives searched Jake and Mia's home, focusing on areas Mia frequented. In the back of a locked cabinet, they found the smoking gun, containers of the same substance found in Jake's system. Forensics matched fingerprints on the containers to Mia. As the puzzle pieces fell into place, a grim picture emerged. Authorities now had a motive, a method, and a suspect. Mia's carefully constructed facade began to crumble, and the once picturesque marriage was revealed for what it truly was: a dangerous deception. Viewers are left breathless as the stakes rise. Jake's survival hangs by a thread, Derek's loyalty falters, and Mia's world starts to collapse around her. With each revelation, the audience is pulled deeper into the unraveling story. Will justice come in time, or will Mia and Derek manage to slip away? Mia's composed exterior began to crack under the scrutiny of seasoned investigators. During her initial interrogation, she clung to her story of innocence, feigning shock and betrayal. "I would never hurt Jake," she repeated, her voice trembling as tears streamed down her face. But the facade didn't last long. Detectives had something Mia didn't anticipate: Derek's growing desperation. After being picked up by authorities at a seedy motel just outside of town, Derek folded under pressure. The investigators dangled a deal, and Derek took the bait, providing a damning audio recording. In the grainy voice memo, Mia's words were clear. "He's too trusting. We'll be free, Derek, and no one will ever suspect us." The cold calculation in her voice left the room silent as detectives played the clip. Confronted with irrefutable evidence, Mia's defiance dissolved into panic. She screamed at Derek's betrayal, her protests echoing through the station halls as she was cuffed and charged with attempted murder. Derek's own escape plan crumbled. Authorities discovered a stash of cash and a forged passport in his belongings, sealing his fate. His betrayal may have lightened his sentence slightly, but it solidified his place as a self-serving coward willing to turn on his partner in crime. Miraculously, Jake pulled through after weeks of intensive care. His body, though weakened by the toxins, showed a resilience that mirrored his character. But survival came with a heavy cost. The betrayal from the woman he loved, the person he trusted most, cut deeper than any physical wound. Jake's first visit to the bistro after leaving the hospital was a somber one. The once lively space, filled with laughter and the aroma of his signature dishes, now felt hollow. The memories were too painful to bear. With a heavy heart, Jake made the difficult decision to close the restaurant that had been his dream and the centerpiece of his life with Mia. Packing his belongings, Jake left the small town behind, seeking solace in anonymity. His departure was quiet, without the fanfare that had once surrounded his name. Jake was ready to start over, far from the betrayal and heartbreak that had shattered his world. While Jake left to rebuild his life, Elena stayed behind, her reputation elevated by her bravery and unwavering dedication. Her actions saved Jake's life and brought justice to a case that could have gone unnoticed. Elena's testimony during the trial was powerful. her voice steady as she recounted the moments she noticed Jake's decline and the determination that drove her to uncover the truth. The community rallied around her, celebrating her as a beacon of integrity and loyalty. Her actions inspired others to stand up for what is right, proving that even in the darkest moments, a single person's courage can turn the tide. This tale is a haunting reminder of how greed can destroy the most sacred bonds of trust. Jake's love and loyalty were weaponized against him, but in the end, truth prevailed and justice was served. It's a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and resilience, proving that even in the face of devastating loss, courage and integrity can shine through. Mia, would you have done in Jake's position? Could Mia have chosen a different path, or was her greed her ultimate downfall? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. If this story captivated you, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more compelling tales that delve into the complexities of human nature. Your next true crime story is just a click away.